Hello, hello people of YouTube. So being a niche internet micro celebrity, I think it is my duty to be transparent with all of the people who watch my videos. So I'm preparing a video essay, I'm writing the script for it, but I'm experiencing heavy writer's block right now. I can't even finish this at all. I've got the idea and I've got most of it down, but I'm like, how do I even finish this? You know what I'm saying? So I have a video essay coming and it's gonna be really good probably. But in between then, because it's gonna take so long to finish this thing, I feel like I need to still be putting something out for the people to enjoy. So I'm going to be I'm going to show all of my records. So anyway, to start off today, I actually went with a friend to this local record store and I bought new ones. So here you've got, you know, the big hits of the Platters. So there's, The Great Pretender, Twilight Time, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, Only You, all of these other songs which are really well known. If you know the Platters, you know those songs. But I was surprised to find this for $2. It's amazing. Anyway, next, music from Mr. Lucky by Henry Man. I don't know if it's Mancini, something like that. Mancini knows, but I got that, and that is very cool because he's a good composer. I've listened to some of his music. I'm gone. This is very good, very good. And for some reason, his music was really popular on TikTok for a month. I don't know how that happened, but it did. Anyway, now we've got Blues in the Night by Morton Gold. I've never heard of her, but I recognize some of these song titles like Deep Purple, Mood Indigo, Solitude. I've heard of these songs, but I've never heard of this artist, so I wanted to see how she sung it. And I was also just interested. I don't know, I was interested. But that one was also $2, so it wasn't like I was wasting my money. But anyway, then, one sec. This is some weird packaging on it. There we go. Uh, George Shearing. I've also never heard of them. Quintet. Okay, so I've heard of some of these songs, but I've never heard of George Shearing. I've never seen this album cover, but I saw these songs and I was like, oh, I know these songs. Call Me Irresponsible, I know that song. The Girl from Ipanema, Mr. Lucky, I know those songs. So I was like, you know what? I want to hear this. It was also $2. I was like, I need to expand my taste in jazz because I listen to a lot of jazz. I listen to Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, but I don't, I need to branch out into some lesser known artists. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Johnny Horton's Greatest Hits. I only know this album because it has the Battle of New Orleans on it, and that song is about Andrew Jackson and the Battle of New Orleans. But so I was like, you know what? I want to get that because that sounds interesting. But anyway, I also got 45, which is a record, but it's super small and it only has a few songs on it. So this is the Little Dippers. It has Forever and 2x4. Forever is one of my favorite songs of all time. I think it's so underrated. It's so cute and pretty, and it's such a nice song. You need to listen to Forever by the Little Dippers. I'm begging you all to listen to it. It's such a good song. Alright, now, here's all the stuff which I didn't buy today. Before I get into that, you can see two records on the wall. That is Tender as the Night by Johnny Mathis and Gentle on My Mind by Dean Martin. Because I love Dean Martin, I love Johnny Mathis, I love crooner stuff, I love jazz, I love 50s, 60s, that era of music. Very good. Mucho video. Anyway, now, this is actually a reference to my video essay, which might happen at some point. Floodland by Sisters of Mercy. I love Sisters of Mercy and I love this album. I think everything on this album is completely perfect, especially Lucretia, My Reflection. That song is like beyond perfect. Like it's actually amazing. That song is so good. Um, so yeah, I love Sisters of Mercy. I love them so much. I love that kind of genre. I love goth music, post punk, which is actually what the video essay is about. It's about the history of goth in general and like the philosophy behind it. So it should be a interesting video. If you find that interesting, stay tuned for it. And then Ride the Lightning by Metallica. This is one of my personal favorite Metallica albums. I also really like, I really like the Masters of Puppets album, but I wouldn't call it my favorite. It's probably like objectively their best album, but this one and Kill 'Em All are my personal favorites. You know what I'm saying? Personal favorites. But I don't have the Kill 'Em All album. I have the Black album, though, which you will see in a moment. Anyway, Lady in Satine by Billie Holiday. Another fantastic album. I love Billie Holiday. That's probably obvious. I said that I liked crooner music and I like jazz, so of course I would like Billie Holiday. There's a lot of music like that here. Anyway, um, what's the name of this album? I don't know the name of the album, but it's Chet Baker, and it has Alone Together on it, and I really like this album. I don't think any of the songs have lyrics, but I love Chet Baker. He's such a good musician, such a good trumpet player. Such a very sad life, though. Very sad life. But he was a good musician. I love his music. I think he's probably one of my favorite jazz musicians. Anyway, The Sky's Gone Out by Bauhaus, another goth post punk classic. This has some songs which I really like on it. All We Ever Wanted Was Everything. Um, it doesn't have. On Spotify, there's some version of this album which has Watch That Granddad Go, which I think is like such a fun song because it's so bizarre and experimental and out there. It's a weird song. It's such a weird song, but it's a good song. But it's not on the record, which I don't know. Maybe that Spotify version is like an extended version of the album. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, um, this is Burning from the Inside by Bauhaus. I don't really know any of the songs on here other than Cheese and Parties. Oh, never mind. Yes, I do. I know Cheese and Parties, and I know Antonin Artrod. Antonin Artrod. Anyway, I like Bauhaus. Bauhaus is one of my favorite bands in the goth post-punk scene. I guess they were also one of the first, if not the first, goth band. But yeah, I talk about them a lot in my video essay, which will come one day. Now we have Currents by Tame Impala. I think most people know this album. I kind of like it because the album cover is purple, and The Less I Know the Better is very easy to dance to. It's a very groovy song. A lot of the songs on this album are very groovy. I think when it comes to indie music, this is probably one of my favorite albums. But yeah. Then another purple album cover. We have Purple Rain by Prince. Do I even need to explain this? Someone once told me that I reminded them of Prince, that I kind of looked like them or something. I don't know. I guess I can kind of see it, but whatever. Anyway, this is a very good album. Prince is very good. I love Prince. I love Prince. My favorite song off of this, Let's Go Crazy. I like When Doves Cry. and I like Purple Rain. I need to re-listen to the whole album because for some reason I can't think of any of the other songs, so I'm gonna have to re-listen to it. But Purple Rain, yeah. And then we have the Dean Martin TV show record. Um, but yeah, funnily enough, I don't know most of the. I know I've grown accustomed to her face, and I know Just Friends, but I don't know most of the songs on this album. But I really like Dean Martin, so I bought it anyway, and it was really cheap. But yeah, this is a good. I love Dean Martin. You should all listen to Dean Martin. Unknown Pleasures by Joy Division. Unknown Pleasures by Joy Division. He will. I will also be mentioning Unknown Pleasures and Joy Division in my video essay about goth stuff. But I find it funny that like Jordan, like straight up like ripped it off. Like I remember seeing there was some shirt. It was like the Jordan logo, but it was so obviously also the Unknown Pleasures album cover. And I saw someone wearing that. I was like, that's like an album cover. That's literally a Joy Division album cover that this guy is wearing. I don't know. They should have given credit because it's so obvious what it is. But anyway, another Chet Baker album. Chet Baker sings and plays. I love Chet Baker. It's really hard to find his albums. Very hard. I don't know why it's so hard to find his records because like he's not like an unknown jazz musician. Like he's probably not as well known as like John Coltrane or like Miles Davis, but he's still not like a niche jazz musician. What's going on with that? What's going on with that? Am I right? But anyway, this is probably scary and weird to admit, but this is literally one of my favorite albums of all time. It's Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge by My Chemical Romance. On Spotify, my most listened to song is Helena. I've listened to it over 500 times apparently. I've had Spotify for about 3 years. And like, I remember there was a phase where I would literally only listen to this album and I would repeat it over and over and over again because I just loved it so much. Like I feel like every song on here is so good. It's such a good album, but it's also like emo and slash pop punk. So it's kind of embarrassing to admit it, but like I actually love this album so much. But anyway, another Chet Baker album. Chet Baker sings It Could Happen to You. This another fantastic album. I love every song on here. Chet Baker is so good. This album is so good. You need to listen to this album now, please. Then, Dean Martin sings songs from The Silencers. I got this because I thought the album cover was kind of funny. It's also like super weird. But anyway, I think it's a movie, but I've never watched it. I knew that Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra had both acted in some movies, so I guess this is one of the movies that they were in. But anyway, this album is basically music from that. Anyway, Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. Anyway, I mean, what do I even say about this? Everyone knows Ziggy Stardust. Everyone knows David Bowie. Um, I like this album, and I like David Bowie. I really like David Bowie. Yeah. Ella and Lewis. Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. Did I say Lewis? I've never done that before. I'm sorry. I've never pronounced his name wrong. I've listened to Louis Armstrong since I was in like elementary school. I don't know how I just mispronounced his name as Lewis. But anyway, yeah, I really like this album. Every song on here is also perfect. Everything on this album is perfect. This album is perfect. I love Ella Fitzgerald. I love Louis Armstrong. But yeah, the best of Blondie. I love Blondie. I mean, I don't know what else to say. This album is very good. Anyway, Getz and Gilberto. This is bossa nova. So bossa nova, it's like Brazilian jazz. I actually am 100% sure that Brazil perfected jazz. That's like my opinion, but I think it's correct because bossa nova is like one of my favorite genres of music. It's so good. Like I love jazz, but I really love bossa nova because like it's just so good. It's so good. Anyway, more Johnny Mathis. Raindrops keep falling on my head. Johnny Mathis. I mean, what else do I say? It's Johnny Mathis. Good musician. Johnny Mathis again with the greatest hits. Got chances are, 'cause I wear a blah blah blah. And then Wonderful, Wonderful. And it's not for me to say. Everyone knows those songs. If you know Johnny Mathis, you know those songs. And I love Johnny Mathis. He's so good. Come Fly With Me by Frank Sinatra. This is another one of my favorite Frank Sinatra albums because, like, I mean, it's just about travel. All of the songs are about different countries. Um, I really, or different parts of the world, not necessarily countries. Like Moonlight in Vermont, that's America. Autumn in New York, that's also America. But it's just like throughout the world. But it's a very good album. I love the song Brazil. Brazil by Frank Sinatra is such a good song. There's a doo-wop version of Brazil. There's a bossa nova version of that song. There's all these different versions of that same song, and all of the versions are so good. Anyway, there's that. I love this album. What's happening to my records? Oh, that's really sad. Anyway, Ultimate Sinatra. What else do I say? This is like his biggest hits. The music that, if you know Frank Sinatra, you probably have heard all of these songs. But yeah, so Frank Sinatra. And then Sinatra, A Man and His Music. This is a good album as well. I think this is one of his most popular albums. Very good. Very good. Good, good, good. And finally, last and I was gonna say not least, but honestly probably least, the Black Album by Metallica. When I first discovered Metallica, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And then I discovered their other music, and then I started listening to more metal, and I realized, oh wow, this is really not that interesting at all. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. So that does for my vinyl record collection until I get more vinyl records. Anyway, I am working on a video essay, and I'm basically talking about goth, and I'm tracing the history of goth from the Gothic barbarians, or the Gothic tribes, sorry, all the way up until like the Gothic subculture of like the 80s to the present. So that should be interesting. And I'm talking about the philosophy behind it, and I'm talking about what actually connects all these things. Because, like, why would a Germanic tribe be called Goth? And that same word is used to describe, like, a type of architecture that developed in the Middle Ages, and also, like, a type of music that came from, like, the late 70s and 80s. Like, that just seems kind of weird. Why would goth have so many different meanings? So that's what I'm talking about in my new video essay, which will come out whenever I finish it. I'm like halfway done with it, or 3/4 of the way, something like that. Anyway, that is all for today. Stay tuned for my next videos. Goodbye, chat.